Black Friday shopping. The social legalization of the crash in United States stores. Thieves with a calculator operate in broad daylight, right in front of everyone's eyes, without any fear or hesitation. Ukrainian authorities urgently driving entire population of country under gun, creating barrier squads.
Finally, it's now closed.
Who poisoned Budanov's wife? Or did she carry out the special operation unsuccessfully? And who ate all the Belarusian sausage at the negotiations?
The Reznikov security service stated that there is nothing that can be done.
Trends program about to start now. The sweet time of pre-New Year shopping has acquired a sinister criminal shade in the most democratic country in the world, the USA. Once upon a time, the time of discounts and sales is now a potentially dangerous period. You can find yourself in the epicenter of shoplifters' raid. This is when a crowd of thieves bursts into a store and takes everything from the shelves that they can. However, on occasion, it is also loners. No one truly fights against, hinders, or causes delays for them. It's all about the new law. The theft of goods up to $1,000 is not considered a crime. More precisely, they no longer put you in jail for this. The legalization of such raids was proposed after cases of security guards being killed. As a result, the United States was hit by a wave of shoplifting. Round-the-clock stores suffer more than others due to rampant theft. Owners, understanding the helplessness of the police, resort to trickery. For instance, instead of the real products, only their images are shown. A vast network of pharmacy supermarkets has already done so. To buy the desired item, the buyer must press the button, and only then will the seller bring it from the warehouse. The sensitivity of the issue of shoplifting dough is linked to the question of the struggle for the rights of the colored population of the US. Against the backdrop of demands for payments and reparations to African Americans for the years their ancestors spent in slavery, such contradictory laws are being passed. And in this light, Black Friday takes on a completely different meaning.
Why do thieves in American stores clear the shelves and pass calmly by security? This is not a resolution. California Law 47, State of the USA.
In the US, thefts up to $1,000 have been legalized. Now, the one who stole a smaller amount cannot be imprisoned.
The law was enacted to ease US prisons. In the initial year, the prisoner count dropped by 13K while thefts increased.
Raid on a branded sports clothing store. Several people more confident. Grab what you can and run, bypassing the cash register. You can do it in less than a minute. Moreover, over time, the eye becomes clouded. And noticing that the total amount of theft can be more than $1,000, the robber will throw away some goods, and next time he will only come back for them.
No, they aren't afraid. Why? Because they won't get anything. They release it immediately, without delay. If the officer arrests them there, brings and processes all the documents, then he will go home before the shift ends. Very good. Fantastic, unquestionably.
At first glance, it appears to be a flash mob consisting of more than 100 African American teenagers. But in reality, it is a large-scale raid of an Apple electronics store in Philadelphia. Onlookers ululate, capturing what's happening on their mobile phones to show off on social networks. The police may intervene if the raid turns into a riot, breaking shop windows, beating security guards. However, the situation can turn against law enforcement officers. Following the George Floyd incident, an unofficial ban on shootouts with African Americans has been implemented. Residents of American ghettos, black people are well aware of the benefits, and patrol officers can easily be held accountable for the use of excessive force as well as for racism.
Oh my goodness. Wow, Eve, it's absolutely fantastic to see you.
In the 20th year, during the time of the greatest activity of the Black Lives Matter movement, African Americans were stopping passers-by and demanding that they prove they are not racists. Kiss the boot, lining up for it in a queue. A large number of Caucasian individuals did it without any objections. The sole person who opposes shoplifters. The same colorful, for instance, the owners of the shops are Indians. This thief was beaten with a stick. Well, this is a unique video. an African American working on a campaign to tow cars for unpaid fines. Without leaving the car, he takes her away from the ghetto of another African American. Similar to theft, you also need to handle it within seconds to prevent conflict.
Hello, please come over here. I urgently need you to come here right away.
Based on the events involving their patrol cars, the Los Angeles Police Department now lacks significant authority. The problem of crime has become so serious that it worries not only activists or local businesses. You can become a victim of robbery even while driving a car. Seattle, Washington, a mugging in the tunnel. The driver can only hope and pray that the robber does not have a weapon. San Francisco, California. Cunning individuals in a Lexus systematically pilfer from parked vehicles one after the other. A shoplifter relies on suddenness and courage as their main methods, even when they are alone in a store. The criminal can ride into the shop on a bicycle. The vendor only needs to provide evidence that it was not him who committed the theft. To film as a robber stuffs a bag with goods. The guard weakly tries to drop the bag, realizing that he is powerless here. Or here is a person who leaped over the counter, took the work computer and was gone. And what is your view on this? A TV film crew was robbed in Chicago, United States while filming a report on armed robberies in the USA. By legalizing thefts up to $1,000, the state has essentially established such a criminal phenomenon as thieves-in-law. However strange it may sound. If you think that the USA is a paradise on earth, here are the results of a recent survey of Americans themselves. 30% responded good, while 70% responded bad to the question, how do you think things are going in the USA? Mood's degree in American society at present is highly prevalent.
What's the ultimate goal? Do you want to ruin the country? This is total lawlessness. First at the basic level, where you can misbehave on the street, and then it'll spread everywhere. No one will have any desire to stay aside from this incredible celebration of life. Do not work, go ahead and steal if you must.
When everything falls apart, starting from childhood, when there are no moral values, no institution of family, no proper education, here it leads. Here is this customs mass, which is much easier to make believe in anything, any words, any promises.
Trends spread globally. In Acapulco, Mexico, teenagers engage in robbery at an electronics store. And one of the fashion trends in Europe has become to wrap the phone strap around the wrist. This somehow makes it difficult for thieves to snatch a mobile phone from the owner's hands or pocket and ride off into the sunset on a moped. Approaching are the pre-New Year's Black Fridays with their astonishing discounts. Nevertheless, on occasion, if you delve deeper, a sale is nothing more than a typical scam aimed at enticing you to part with your money.
The future is derived from the past. Let's recall the start of the 20th century and the remarks of Woodrow Wilson, the former rector of Princeton University and later the President of the United States. The doors of the states are locked, and now they need to be hacked. The privileges obtained by financiers must be protected by representatives of our state, even if this violates the sovereignty of those countries that are not inclined to meet us halfway. Here it is suitable to cite the websites that have multiplied in the past few years, which assert to expose false information for monetary gain from funds in the United States. In my view, the whitewashing of the USA is because of their predatory policies in recent times. They are attempting to undermine this quote, but their efforts to discredit it are not effective. It occurred, they acknowledge it. However, the trajectory of their thoughts is intriguing. First of all, they don't like the translation. It's too harsh. It should be softened. And secondly, Wilson was not the president of the United States at that time, so it doesn't count. The amazing world of Western propaganda. No less amazing are the results of information PR, in which the country, the only one in the world, carried out 2 nuclear bombings on cities with civilian populations. A large number of coups that caused the destruction of nearly the entire indigenous population of North America. The occupation of his lands and hundreds of other clearly aggressive actions are considered in the West as an example of democracy. However, the technologies of neocolonialism have advanced far ahead. Great public relations with terrible behavior. These are flowers in comparison to the appointment of foreign citizens, high-ranking officials, and presidents of other countries. VIP foreign agents with the powers of heads of state, not such a rare phenomenon.
At the end of the 20th century, American scientist Joseph Nye introduced soft power, achieving desired outcomes by attracting and shaping preferences instead of coercing. As part of the US foreign policy, the education of foreign citizens is on par with ensuring national security and defense capability. The object of American soft power, foreign politicians, officials, and intellectuals, who, after studying in the United States, introduce the interests of the White House into the masses and political processes of their states. The total number of heads of state who have received education in the United States has already surpassed 80. Example, possible invasion of Germany in Latin America during the First and Second World Wars. The threat of war to the United States led to the loss of their influence in the region, which resulted in the creation of programs for training political leaders and government officials in Argentina, Venezuela, and Mexico. The threat to U.S. interests in Western Europe and the Middle East during the Cold War led to the development of programs for training foreign citizens, while the rejection of American values in Muslim countries contributed to the formation of new training programs, training of youth and public leaders of Islamic states. The consolidation of elites around the concept of Atlanticism was carried out primarily through the creation of the Bilderberg Group and the Atlantic Institute of International Relations, which were able to widely spread the idea that military alliances and economic cooperation with the United States are necessary conditions for the survival of the European region. Therefore, the role of politicians who have undergone brainwashing in the States and returned to their positions boils down to one thing: doing what Washington needs. So, it means to pursue a policy of weakening regional and international security, build border fences, allow foreign military contingents onto their territory, pursue Russophobic policies, and attempt to increase military potential. And most importantly, all of this goes against the genuine national and popular interests of the country. But this doesn't bother the newly formed politicians. In the USA, they showed how it should be. Among individuals like these, for instance, Maya Sandu, the future president of Moldova, received a diploma from the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University in 2010. It is interesting that she also has Romanian citizenship. She took an oath to two states, one as an ordinary citizen, the other as a member of the Moldovan Cabinet of Ministers. And the country's prime minister walks under different flags and sees nothing wrong with it. Such loyalty to the people and the state. Salome Zurabichvili, the president of Georgia, graduated from Columbia University and recently renounced dual citizenship. Possession of a foreign passport is strictly prohibited in many states. Why give an official or politician the opportunity to do whatever they are told from abroad, knowing that at any moment their trail will be revealed? Every single person has a duty to be responsible to the people. Well, in an ideal world, that is. In the current reality, for example, the president of Ukraine holds British citizenship, as do his close relatives. Almost all the people's deputies from all parliamentary factions of Ukraine who were elected to the Verkhovna Rada for the first time had the honor of studying in America. In Zelensky's party, it was announced back in 1919 that more than 300 parliamentarians would fly to the States. Attended the American University and served as the Prime Minister of Latvia. Kristianis Karinch is a U.S. citizen. In his arsenal, there are Pennsylvania universities, St. John's College. Latvian President Egars Rinkovics went even further. He pursued his studies at the National Defense University of the United States and currently possesses a Master of Science degree in National Resource Strategy. I want to remind you that as of today, Latvia still remains as one of the countries with the lowest income levels in the European Union based on the data provided by Eurostat, the statistical office of the EU.
Here, it would appear, in the case of Ukraine, one can ultimately be persuaded of how flirtations with the West conclude. How much more can you step on the same rakes and enjoy cookies from Victoria Nuland? Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Sergei Ryabkov, responded to the question of whether a ceasefire with Ukraine can be expected next year. Quote, "I not only don't expect a truce, I anticipate that the objectives of the SVR will unquestionably be accomplished without a doubt. Whether Russia will prevail by 24th or whether it is about the fact that in principle it is necessary to bring the goals of the CVO to a logical conclusion. In Ukraine itself, there is currently an unofficial trend among officials. Reflections on the impossibility of defeating an opponent like Russia by military means." Manager of the state concern Ukroboronprom Martin Brest logically reasons about a simple balance of power. Population of Russia and population of Ukraine. Ordinary arithmetic.
Even if we gather 4 million individuals at this moment, we will only be able to reach the boundaries that existed in the year 1991. But then the country can be closed, the lights can be turned off and leave, because the country will be in pieces, and there will be an enemy who will be building up this whole story.
To create this entire tale.
However, official Kiev is the very place that continues to amaze. Ukraine will not sign peace agreements with Russia without reparations. Fresh thesis from Bankova. But it doesn't change the essence. The generalship and bureaucracy are currently actively turning their heads from side to side. Zelensky is openly perplexed against the backdrop of diminishing interest in him.
The story is going to be completed.
What is next? Is the West compelling Ukraine to come to the negotiating table? Let us discuss this with Ukrainian Member of Parliament Ilya Kiva and Russian military expert Boris Rozhin. Hello! With the disruption of financial flows in Ukraine, the question arises about the potential development of events in this conflict.
Look, the consequences that will occur in Ukraine in the near future, they undoubtedly depend on a variety of factors that cannot be underestimated. But probably about a year and a half ago, we talked in this same studio about the fact that sooner or later all this will end with a military coup. By military coup and change of power, this was evidently a representation of the capital of the United States. And the authorities in Ukraine, which at the appropriate moment simply substitute players on the arena. Zelensky, it was clear to everyone from the beginning that sooner or later there would be negativity with failures on the battlefield, failures in the economy and on the international stage, because his actions spoke about it. It was evident to all that at some point, undoubtedly, Zelensky would inevitably require leaking, without a shadow of a doubt, like an uncomfortable figure, like a goat of release. And today that time has come. From the very outset, always engaged in politics and at the forefront of the avant-garde movement, there was a group of doubles in Washington. This is the team consisting of Poroshenko, Klitschko, and Zaluzhny, which presently are already actively forming, preparing, as well as capturing administrative buildings in Kiev, as well as legalizing this military coup, as well as preparing troops that are still under the control of the hostage and are yet to be released in order to maintain their dominance and suppress any opposition. Therefore, for Zelensky, the moment of truth begins today. He will make an effort to maintain power in his hands through the implementation of repressive measures and actions.
In regards to the termination of funding, it is currently ongoing. Therefore, the Americans will utilize the money that was officially allocated for military assistance to Ukraine. There are still a few $100 million remaining. They will now divide the remaining funds into small packages of 100, 200 million and primarily allocate them to ammunition and stretch support. Certainly, these are not identical in terms of the volume of military assistance packages as they were previously. However, it's crucial to remember that simultaneously, there are other financing channels from the United States. These include various secret funds of the CIA, funds of NGOs, i.e., controlled American organizations providing different forms of assistance. That is, of course, official and military assistance. This aid is not restricted. It must not be overlooked.
Your thoughts on the poisoning of Budanova? Is this disinformation to divert attention or a real poisoning?
But Ukraine claims that Budanov's wife was officially poisoned, and several officers of the main intelligence directorate were allegedly poisoned. Meanwhile, days have passed, but Russia hasn't been directly accused yet, which raises the question of Russia's purpose. Poisoning the top leadership of Ukraine. However, for some unknown reason, they continue to refrain from doing so. This suggests that there are likely significant factors at play, such as an internal power struggle and an effort to eliminate Budanov. It is worth noting that Budanov's wife is not perceived as a significant threat or of great importance in this context. And we see that this news is happening against the backdrop of an escalation of internal struggle in Ukraine. We see that Kolomoisky is being arrested, his henchmen like Dubinsky are being arrested. We observe a conflict revolving around the Chief of Staff Zaluzhny. We witness the removal of different high-ranking individuals associated with Zaluzhny from various positions. We witness Karenko's removal from the head of the op, along with several others being removed too. Against this backdrop, there's a message of attempts to poison the deserved. There are grounds to believe this may not be the action of Russian special services, but part of the Ukrainian political struggle amid an escalating crisis caused primarily by the failure of offensive plans, around which the whole strategy was built. Now this strategy has collapsed. We see that internal gnawing is intensifying. Since there are few facts, it can be assumed that on the one hand, of course, the Russian special services tried to do something. But, again, this is not considered a fact. But on the other hand, this whole situation fits into the picture of internal political and military struggle within the Ukrainian military leadership.
In the upcoming days, Avdiivka will be evacuated. In general, the global movement on the front will commence soon, and significant developments are expected to unfold in the near future. The front will begin to crumble, and where will the Russian army cease its advance? Well, presumably only Vladimir Putin is aware of it. And naturally, it is imperative for us to address and alleviate this discontent among the populace, as every individual is pondering what is transpiring within our nation. What's next? For what do we die? And let's not forget about the scandalous interview given by the presidential faction in the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, David Rakhame, who stated that the war could have been stopped or halted back in April 22nd during negotiations in Istanbul, because at that time, Russia only requested a neutral status for Ukraine. Take a moment to consider it. Individuals posed a question. So what was the reason for our failure to put an end to it? Well, because Johnson intervened, because the war was beneficial to Great Britain, and today it even more excites people. All of this needs to be placed somewhere. All of this negativity needs to be directed somewhere. And old favorite models, patterns of comedians that have been worked out over time, arise and continue to entertain audiences. They only create informative reasons. Budanov's wife was poisoned by unidentified individuals. They poisoned, they didn't poison, but they write and talk about it. It seems like as if attention has shifted and it's not as scary anymore from that reality that was still stirring up the brain just yesterday. Oh, here's a simple design for you. Shifting accents, the desire to distract people from actual problems that currently exist.
On the Russian side, it's possible to hear a statement that the full implementation of CVO tasks is possible by next year. Isn't it too optimistic?
In my opinion, Americans in their military and political planning are outlining a potential conflict that may occur in 26, 27 years. At least it is precisely orders for defense enterprises that are received with the aim of enhancing the production of ammunition and equipment for the war in Ukraine after a period of 25 years. So naturally they are experiencing a certain crisis now, but their calculation is based on the fact that over time they will be able to expand military production, that is, eliminate the shortage of ammunition supplies, the shortage of supplies of certain military equipment and ammunition, and accordingly this will enable long-term support for Ukraine's armed forces combat capabilities. Now we observe there is a particular crisis with this. Naturally, the Russian command anticipates to execute these advantages in the upcoming months. However, the extent of the advancement of Russian troops in Ukraine will depend primarily on purely military factors. This is the quantitative and qualitative superiority of the troops of the Russian Federation over the armed forces of Ukraine and the capability of our command to carry out active offensive operations.
It is simply challenging for Washington to fight on two fronts at the moment, as the American economy is bursting at the seams and they are drained and powerless due to the constant transfer of weapons to Ukraine, which has been ongoing without respite. So yes, I hold the exact same belief that irrespective of the circumstances subsequent to a potential military coup, the process of seeking a resolution will undeniably and inevitably commence without a shadow of a doubt. And here the role of Belarus, the role of President Alexander Grigorievich is of utmost importance. Because we will not forget about the contribution to chemical agreements, which yes, were not fully implemented, but we must acknowledge and appreciate the tremendous effort, strength, and time that was dedicated to putting together this structure. And papers were signed, so Minsk today has another opportunity to truly be peacemakers in this terrible fratricidal conflict that was previously formed and provoked by NATO countries or Western countries. So I always support Belarus as a Ukrainian because I am a Ukrainian deputy of the Supreme Council of Ukraine, and I believe in the importance of finding a peaceful resolution to this devastating conflict that has caused immense suffering for the people of Ukraine. And I have great hope and confidence in Belarus, firmly believing that it has the potential to once again emerge as the crucial element, the vital component that will play a pivotal role in bringing an end to this devastating war and restoring peace to the region.
Thanks. Ukrainian Deputy Ilya Kiva and Russian military expert Boris Rozhin contacted us. Recall the sensational revelation of the leader of the faction Servant of the People in the Verkhovna Rada, David Arakhamia, heard by all but quickly forgotten. In the Western countries, they do not discuss it at all. It is about how Johnson instructed the Ukrainian negotiating delegation not to sign peace agreements with Russia. And Kiev continued to fight. Do you know what this means? Ukraine has no subjectivity, no sovereignty. And especially cynically against the backdrop of 500,000 deaths on the front, Arakhamia's recognition of Belarusian sausage looks. During negotiations in our country, the Ukrainian security prohibited the delegations from Kiev from eating, fearing poisoning. But the main negotiator, Arakhamia, kept his composure and quietly consumed all the sausage from the refrigerator. No other politicians in Ukraine at this point in time.
Then we traveled to Belarus. I recall that Reznikov's security service stated that there is no feasible solution available. But we have been driving all day. We arrived. They settled us in some rooms. I opened the fridge. There is some sausage inside. Well, I ate everything. I said, "Watch me." And he endured to the limit, to the very limit, without giving up. I inform him, "I will take care of everyone. If anything happens, don't mention any trouble." When we came back from Istanbul, Boris Johnson arrived in Kiev and said that we wouldn't sign anything with them at all, and let's just fight. Let's just fight.
Another lethal numbers. A staggering 75% of mobilized individuals in Kiev were apprehended on the streets. Only 25% came to military enlistment offices independently after receiving a summons at work or expressing a desire to go to the military unit. This is basically a catastrophic situation for the Ukrainian military fighting on the Eastern Front. Furthermore, even motivated ideas for connections such as Azov Bandera supporters are compelled to enlist individuals from the street through coercion. And barricade squads appear at the positions. The male population of Ukraine is fleeing the country. Affluent individuals purchase papers for overseas trips for a substantial amount of money. People with empty pockets try to cross the Moldova border illegally. There are deaths, frostbite cases in the forest, but this doesn't deter new waves of fugitives.
Petro Poroshenko was unable to depart the country, despite possessing official authorization. Here is an unauthorized attempt, not permitted. I will report it to the authorities. If the former president of Ukraine and the oligarch are not allowed, then what can we say about ordinary citizens who are independent, but more and more willing to leave the country? In Mukachevo, mobilized, risking his life, he made a daring escape right through the bars of the local territorial recruitment center. And this Ukrainian wandered in the mountains for more than 3 days, hoping to illegally leave the country by crossing the border with Romania. Border guards found him with frostbitten feet. Another failed escape attempt of a person in jeans and sneakers through the snowy Carpathians. 40-year-old priest Father Ivan Marsharovsky, a resident of Dnipro, was taken just 3 kilometers from the border. Despite the frostbitten fingers, he is facing mobilization. I cannot feel my finger. Video of forced capture in Ukrainian cities and sending to the front has long become a commonplace. There are hundreds of them on the internet. Now, shocking things come from the battlefields in the SU. Firstly, commanders benefit from soldier deaths. They prohibit retrieving killed bodies from the battlefield, to be listed as missing without a trace. But at the same time, they continue to receive salaries and bonuses for them. The fighter says the money is distributed through the combatant.
Secondly, in the USSR, due to fighters' total desertion, barrier squads emerged. Secondly, in Ukraine's armed forces, due to fighters fleeing, the practice of barrier squads has emerged. Such barriers exist. Squads are standing. 3 lines exist. Defenses are standing. It will not work. They will kill your own belonging to you like this, in this manner. Power enslaves us.
Hence, it's unsurprising the growing attempts of independent state citizens to flee abroad, even risking death at the Romanian border.
I'm paying here.
Musician Eric also escaped from Kharkov illegally, despite the fact that the white ticket was legally due to him.
They also said, come on already, because I've been trying for 6 months to arrange the documents with my illness, but no one let me do it. And then the nerves couldn't take it anymore.
Illegally crossing the Ukrainian-Moldovan border will require a payment of about $2,000 to $3,000. For a payment of $3,200, you can obtain permission to travel to Poland for a period of 6 months. For $400, it can be extended for another 6 months. The visa for a volunteer of a humanitarian mission costs $2,800 for 6 months. The hit of the season is the white ticket. It signifies unsuitability for military service. You can safely travel overseas with him and come back without any negative outcomes. Here the prices differ significantly. Those who don't have money for a bribe are forced to risk their lives trying to cross the border illegally.
Thanks a lot. 5% appreciation. What not? They provided them. Carry out. I will. This project.
These people were caught when they tried to swim across the river. Since February 22nd, 19 bodies have already been caught here. Number of remaining unknown, uncertain.
Over the past 30 years in Ukraine, a part of the population has formed that is unable to see the big picture, unable to draw conclusions from their own history. For example, now UkrSMI has launched a campaign that the system for catching citizens to send to the front is to blame, attention, the Soviet conscription system. If there were more social memory and gray matter, the average Ukrainian would remember that President Yanukovych completely abolished conscription, transferring it to Western principles of staffing, and it was Zelensky who reinstated it back to its original state. The masses, not individuals, would remember, for example, who the Polish elites have been for the independent state for centuries.
When the matter of interest, specifically money, arises, they cease to be our friends and show no concern for us, our economy, our people, farmers, or the country. Poles perceive themselves as influential leaders in Europe and view us as their subordinate, impoverished, and feeble serfs, so to speak, crawling somewhere in exhaustion like beggars. Poles see us like this. Those Poles who bought irons from us 30 years ago. You understand? While our elites looted the country, the Poles built a strong economy over the past 30 years. So what now? Where are you all, huh? Who is this? Poles are our destiny. Why are you silent? What languages did they put there, so to speak, below radiculitis? Look at what they are doing to Ukraine. No one can handle them. They are not interested in letting us compete with our agricultural sector. Blockade. Not profitable for them from carriers' logistics perspective, blockade. And neither the praised EU, nor the European Commission, nor the European Council, nor you, Charles Michel, nor you, Ursula von der Leyen, nor you, Baral, can do anything. And we stay silent about friendship, about supporting the Polish people.
In parallel to the drama surrounding the termination of unconditional love for Ukrainians and thus the support for their actions, another front is unfolding against the fallen gods. At first, the Poles and now the Slovaks and Hungarians have joined the carriers who have blocked the border with Ukraine. These are not only long queues on the roads, but also billion-dollar losses. Trucks just can't pass. The authorities in Kiev are currently unsure of how to respond to these moves. In general, the situation when abroad will not be of assistance. Friendship is friendship, tobacco is separate, border with Romania open, but suspicions it won't last.
A month ago, relations between Poland and Ukraine suffered a new crack. This time, it's not about the tense relations between the authorities, but about the wallets of the Poles, who are actively losing weight. While in quotes, humiliated and impoverished Ukrainians benefit from their privileged position in economic relations with the European Union. From November 6th, the truckers of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth made a bold decision. They started blocking 3 main checkpoints on the border between Poland and Ukraine. Recently, a 4th one was included. They are protesting because they have observed the decrease of their business. Polish companies go bankrupt every day. We can no longer put up with this. We would like to assist Ukraine and its people, so we provided military support and commenced the delivery of humanitarian assistance. However, we do not want to lose our own market to carriers operating in Ukraine. The requirements of the Poles are simple. They will equalize their rights with carriers from the neighboring republic who received more privileges after the start of the SCO. And while no one is in a hurry to solve these problems, the blockade continues to spread. Over 2,500 Ukrainian trucks are stranded in long queues stretching for kilometers at border checkpoints. Only a few trucks pass by in an hour, and sometimes not just one.
Yesterday, a commitment was made to provide 1 car. A total of 7 cars were guaranteed every 2 hours. No cars were missed or overlooked during the night. You presented your conditions that 1 car is in 1 part. In this manner, my friends. I don't know, they're mocking us, honest.
In traffic jams, drivers are forced to stand for days. They started having problems with food and water, running out of fuel. But the protesters are adamant and declare that the border blockade will continue at least until the beginning of next year. We don't have food, we don't have water, we don't have money. Look at the number of people and cars here. Everyone is standing in place. No one wants to let us through. No one tells us anything. We have an issue, and we desire to return to our residence. Kindly take action so that we are able to go home. Ukrainians are compelled to despair, and as a result, conflicts arise on a constant basis, forced to connect the police. Recently, law enforcement officers restrained Ukrainian truck drivers who were trying to pass themselves off as negotiators to Polish drivers. But nothing surprising. Who knows what can come to mind for those who do not hesitate to shout Nazi slogans in a foreign country and wish death to yesterday's friends. After witnessing the Polish movement, carriers from Slovakia made the decision to do the same. The number of trucks stuck at the Ushkorata-Vyshne Nemekaya checkpoint exceeds 1,000. Cunning Ukrainians attempted to depart Slovakia in transit through Hungary, but even there, they encountered betrayal.
The situation is escalating. The country of Hungary has officially closed the entry point for our trucks, preventing them from entering.
On the Slovakian border, however, while carriers from Ukraine enjoy all the delights of hospitality from their neighbors, the losses are already being calculated in Kiev. They were valued at over 253 million, and this is only from customs revenues. Export for the month has decreased by 40%. It is approximately more than $1 billion. Moreover, there have been disruptions in the delivery of many goods in the country. Delivery services warn that the previously agreed upon deadlines are currently not valid and specific dates are not being given at all. Industrialists, pharmacists, and refuelers also complain about delays. The cost of autogas at gas stations has sharply increased. Imported drugs are also in question. It is very difficult to maintain the correct temperature regime in standing trucks. And what else did Ukrainians anticipate? The cost of maintaining friendship with them has become too high. If in the past all the attention of the public and the media was focused on Kiev, now the issue of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has taken the spotlight. Just 6 months ago, popular anger could be called a European diversion and quickly and harshly suppressed. But now everything is allowed. Without camera lenses, the Project Ukraine is meaningless. Uninteresting?
The end of the year is expected to be interesting in every sense. As per Bloomberg, Russia, the most sanctioned country globally, will conclude its 23rd year with a profit of $75 billion, making it the most profitable year. According to another authoritative American publication, the New York Times, the United States, the country with the largest debt in the world, will end its 23rd year with losses of $2 trillion. Think for yourself. It was the Trends program. Goodbye.